Namah Shriyati-Rajaya Vivekananda-Suraye Satchit-Sukha-Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine Swamine Tapaharine. So I hope you're able to see my screen. Yesterday we started discussing on these verses. Now we are coming to the concluding part of this chapter. Oshadhir Namarupabhyam Janate Hyajapavane Avipaschaiva Gopascha Ye Chanye Vanavasinaha. So we discussed, we learned about many herbs and plants that are useful, the Mulinya, Phalinya, the Twak, the Chirinya, all these things. Yeah, sorry for that interruption. So all these plants, it's very important to identify them properly. So the method of identification is being explained here, because a big problem in the use of medicinal plants is wrong identity. Today, even in manufactured Ayurvedic medicines, this is a problem. And raw materials are sourced. Identity is challenging. See, when you collect the plant from the location, that is a time we can actually identify it. But many plants look alike. And if you don't have the expertise, you cannot distinguish them. So once they are collected, they are cut, sliced, and then they are made into bundles, then it becomes even more difficult to identify them. Because botanical identification is based on morphological features where you need the plant to be seen intact, and especially the flower. The reproductive formula of the flower is examined to have a species identification. So the best identification is in the flowering stage, when you identify the family, the genus, and the species. So we also learned in our course botany, a lot of botany to do this. Traditionally also it has been mentioned that a plant should be identified by Jati Lingaha. Jati Linga means the signs of that particular species. Very interesting that that terminology has been used. Jati Lingair Bhesaja Vyakti. So every plant should be identified. So many common plants that are adulterated are there today. There is one plant called Caraka-Saṁhitā. Caraka-Saṁhitā is the Ashoka plant, which is used for female diseases. So it is commonly substituted with drooping Ashoka. So I want to also bring your attention to some slokas from the classical Nikhandus. So in the Dhanvantari Nighandu it is mentioned, Bahunyata Pragrita Samskridani Namani Vijnaya Bahumscha Prishtva Drishtva cha Samsprishya cha Jadilingir Vidyat Bhishak Bheshajam Adarena. So the problem he has mentioned is that Ekam tu nama prathidam bahunam. Sometimes the same name is given to many plants. Ekasya namani tatha bahuni. Sometimes one plant itself has many names. People in different places will call it by different. So name is not reliable to identify a plant. Okay, you say Tilvaka or you say Putika. Now, Kandaki Karanja, yesterday Chakrapani was telling. But Puti Karanja is Chiravillo, that's another plant. So by name it is very difficult to identify. Ekam tu nama prathidam bahunam, ekasya namani tatha bahuni. Dravyasya jatya akriti varna virya rasa prabhavadi gunair bhavanti. Because the dravyas have different jati, akriti, varna, virya, rasa prabhava. Because every plant has multiple characteristics, they are given different names. Guduchi, Guda Rakshane, because it is a rasayana, it is called Guduchi. It is called Amrita or Amrita Valli because if you even cut the stem, each stem, if you put it on the ground, all of them will grow into a new plant. Chinna Ruha also means the same thing. That when you cut from the cut pieces, it will grow again. Kundali, Mandali, it means it is entwining like a snake. Chakrika, when you cut the stem of the plant, the cross section will look like a wheel. So it is called Chakrika. Similarly, so plants have many names like this. Like for example, Simhasya is the name of a plant which is used in the management of cough, but this is not a popular name. So if I tell bring some Simhasya and you cannot go and catch a lion and come. It is a plant. You should be able to know that it is a plant and not lion. The plant called Atarushaka, Adatoda Vasika has a synonym Simhasya. Because if you look at the flower from the side, it looks like a lion with its whole face. So they are very imaginative in the way they gave names to plants. So nomenclature alone may be confusing. So Bahunyata Prakrita Samskridani. So you have to study all these names in detail. It was fascinating. I have tried to do this when I was a student, looking at various names, trying to reconstruct the picture of a plant but like a jigsaw puzzle. The synonyms of a plant are like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. When you put them together, the picture emerges. So jigsaw puzzle we all like to play, isn't it? So you can say our acharyas created jigsaw puzzles for us, giving us clues through the names. So Bahunyata Pragrita Samskridani Namani Vijnaya Bahumscha Prishtva. You have to ask a lot of people and then Drishtva and then check. Look at the features described here. Look at the actual plant. Samsprishya. Actually go and touch and feel the plant. Jati Lingair Vidyad Bhishag. Ultimately, the identification is not based on name or any of these characters. It is based on Jati Linga. That is the unique species characteristics of a plant. It makes one plant different from another. Is that clear? So then how do we do this? In those days, field visits were told. Field visit means go to the forest, go to nature and identify the plants. You cannot. Today we are sitting and seeing a picture. Now I may share a picture of a plant on the internet. Ah, yes, this is ashwagandha. That's all you know. And then what you are eating is a tablet of ashwagandha. So nobody has seen ashwagandha. We don't see nature around us. I think I told you one big difference I feel today when I get into the institution, I get disconnected from nature. Because for 7.5 years we lived inside a forest. Every other hour we come out, we see nature. Because buildings are not connected. They are like huts. So every time throughout the 24 hours, we keep getting connected with nature. It's a different feeling altogether. Today we enter the building, and for hours we are trapped inside. We don't see nature. We see only these digital images and screens. Then we come out for a short time, we are exposed again. It is not fully exposed to nature. Then we go back to our homes, again inside concrete buildings, and this is how we are living. We are not having that connection with nature because seeing nature, feeling nature will expand our mind. Today we are trying to compensate by putting, plants inside our homes. So I am sitting near a plant. It has shed its leaf now. It's a live plant in my desk. So it gives you a feel of nature. But this is not a replacement for the real nature. So when you feel, you touch, drishtva cha samsprishya cha jadilinkai, then your identification will be correct. So all those, so today this is something which we have to bring into higher school education also. Children are not aware of medicinal plants. In olden days, everybody knew what is tulsi, but I don't know. Today's younger children, they don't know. They know, some people may know tulsi cough syrup. Yes, my mother gives me when I am coughing. But they don't know what is tulsi. Because olden days, our homes, in the front of everybody's home, there would be a tulsi plant. Hibiscus was also used for rituals, but it is used for so many purposes. Today we see only in the product form, we don't see it actually as plants. When we were young, I remember all children, when you go for bathing, they would collect the hibiscus leaves that is made into a shampoo. You just crush it and you get very nice shampoo. And bathing is in the pond. So all those things help us to understand the nature around us. So they did not have to, if you see somebody, you don't, do a DNA test to find out whether he's that real person, is it? Right? You are seeing your friend in the airport and you say, please wait, give me a piece of your DNA. Let me just check whether it's you. We don't do that. Jadilingai means testing DNA. But if it's somebody whom you do not know, then you may have to go to that level to identify, is it not? So if we are, so plants were identified just like we identify people today. So much familiarity, so much closeness that we don't need to create a big scientific procedure to study the plants. They were all understood like. So even in the Raghuvamsha it is said King Dilipa, when he was going to the forest of his guru Vasishta, Namadheyani Prachandau Vanyanam Margashakhinam. He's asking people around. Namadheyani Prachand. He was going on asking the people around, what is the name of this plant, of that plant? It's a king. But he wants to learn from the people, the forest. This is a good chance to learn about the plants. Vanyanam Marga Shakhinam. All the plants that were on the marga, on the roadside. When we were students, we used to simply joke, if you don't know the name of a plant, we call it rhodorum sidorum. Means growing in the roadside. Any plant growing in the roadside which we don't know is called rhodorum sidorum. But here Dilipa is asking all the names of these rhodorum sidorums. If you translate that Vanyana Marga Shakhi, is the roadside plants. And Dileepa doesn't want to say it is rhodorum sidorum. He says, I want to know the exact names of these plants. So this reflects a culture of when in Abhijnana Shakuntalam it is mentioned that Shakuntala had such a close connection with the plants around her that even the jasmine creepers were trying to hold her back when she was leaving. So uh, it's also there in Kumarasambhavam, I remember. Kanduyamanena katam katajit. Uh, the other line, some of these things I'm not remembering. It's more than 30 years now since I studied all these verses. Vanyadvipenonmathita tvagasya. So there was a sandal tree which was being, tended by Parvati, goddess Parvati. So when the one elephant, Kanduyamanena, Kanduyamana means the elephant was feeling itching, so it went against this sandal tree. And Vanyadvipena, it was a Dvipa is an elephant. So a wild elephant came and started scratching itself against this sandal tree. So then Parvati became so sad. So I think, yeah, it is from Raghuvamsha itself, I think. So I will just show that.
Yes, sir. Raghuvamsha only.
Raghuvamsha only, yes. So Kanduyamanena Kadam Kadachit. Does anybody know the last part? Vanyadvipenonmathita tvagasya senanyam. I'm just not remembering that part. If I put a little struggle, it will also come. So what Parvati felt like, it was as if, Lord Subramania's skin was being peeled off. She felt as if it was her own son undergoing that suffering. So this was the kind of connection that people had with plants around them. And then identification was not a big problem. And so we respected.
So I've given the shloka in the chat box. Can you please check if it is that?
What is it?
I have typed up the shloka in the chat box.
How you have put it? Okay, let me just check.
Yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Sorry, I was just trying to check something. And okay, let me look into the chat box. Yes. Very good. Thanks. Adhainam adres tanaya shushocha. Adhainam adres tanaya means Adri is mountain, mountain's daughter. Shushocha, she became so sad seeing this. Senanya malidham ibhasurastra. So very beautiful poetry. Just as if Senani or her own son, because he's a warrior, his own son, alidham ivasurastra, as if her son's skin was abrased by the arrows of asuras. So this is when you read Charaka or all these things, we have to link it to connected slokas in our whole literature. Then you have an organic, holistic understanding of these concepts. So why our teachers used to say why we should read kavyas, when you study Ayurveda, because it brings everything into context. You can make these cross linkages, and then you get the clear, deeper understanding of what Charaka means here, or what in the Dhanvantari Khandu is mentioned. So this is a very beautiful verse. Many such verses are there. So Oshadhir Nama Rupabhyam Janate Hyajapavane. So go out into the forest, meet the goat herds. Today we will look down them upon as ignorant people. What do I have to learn from them? Now Charaka is telling, go into the forest. Hachapaha, Avipaha, shepherds. Gopascha, cowherds. So goatherds, shepherds and cowherds can, and ye chanye vanavasina, all the others who live in the forest, understand that they have better knowledge of the flora around them. They were very observant, which is why even King Dileepa respected the knowledge of the forest dwellers. Today we are studying tribal medicine, ethnobotany. It's the same thing, what Charaka said. There's a lot to learn from them. So India, we did a study, all India coordinated. This was led by one Dr. Pushpangadan. For the first time, it was found out in modern times that about 8,000 to 9,000 plants are being used for medicinal purposes in India. This was, I think, in 1983, this report came. Till that, we never knew how many medicinal plants in India has been used for, how many plants in India has been used for medicinal purposes. Do you know how many plants are there in India? Flowering plants.
So close to 18,000 for this.
Yeah, now some statistics say that, in India has only 2.4% of the world's total land mass, but it has about 47,513 plant species, which means at least 11.4% of the world flora in 2.4% of the world's land mass. This is the rich biodiversity that we have inherited. And about 28% of the plants are endemic to our country, means they're not seen anywhere else. So as Ayurveda people, it's high time we woke up. That is why, and in Ayurveda, in Charaka and all, only 600 plants, 700 plants are described. And now officially, if you count Ayurvedic plants that are Ayurvedic, it may come to maybe 1,000, 1,500, not more than that. And folk medicine itself uses, tribal medicine, folk medicine together uses about 8,000, 9,000 plants. So which is more richer, Ayurvedic pharmacopoeia or the folk pharmacopoeia? They know more about plants and their medicinal uses. That's why Charaka says, you go and ask them. But he says that just by knowing names, na namatjnana matrena, rupajnanena vapunah, oshadhinam param praptim kaschid veditum arhasi. It's not, while it is very important to identify the plant, it's not enough that you know just the nama or rupa of the plant. But this is very important, the nomenclature. In Ayurveda, study of medicinal plants has 4 divisions: Namatjnana, Rupajnana, Gunajnana, and Yuktijnana. So Nama, Rupa, Guna, and Yukti. So Nama is the name, nomenclature. Rupa is the identity, identification, morphology, whatever is required to identify. Guna is the properties, and Yukti is the application, how to use it. So these are the four divisions of Dravya Guna: Nama Jnana, Rupa Jnana, Guna Jnana, and Yukti Jnana. And that is, Charaka is explaining that here. So, two things are there. The Namatjnana Matrena Rupajnanena Vapuna. He is discussing many important concepts now. That it is, when you want to study new plants, you may have to okay, I do not know about bitter badam. I have not heard much. Many things are happening there. Anyway, the answer will come. What Charaka says is that everything in the folk tradition cannot also be accepted, but they may be first clues. So just because people know some plants and they have some idea about it, doesn't mean Oshadhinam Param Praptim is not obtained through that. Yoga Vitvapya Rupajnas Tasam Tattva Vidichyade. How to use that plant effectively, that is more important. So somebody says bitter badam is good for diabetes. What is the basis for that? You cannot, so many things like that will circulate that Ayurveda does not accept. Because people are always looking for magical solutions. Very easy to get fooled. You can easily fool people with that. So this is good. Then every day morning people will start taking that. This plant is good, that plant is good. Like that, so many things are going on. See, diabetes, there is no magical remedy for diabetes. In Ayurvedic textbooks, there is no discussion of vaccination. But in India, the tika, as you say, smallpox inoculation. See, vaccination we cannot claim. Vaxa coming from the word cow. Vaxa is cow. So vaccination actually originated because from the cow, the cowpox material was taken to develop the smallpox vaccination. Before that, what was in vogue in India was called as inoculation, means the dried pus of the existing smallpox patients from human smallpox patients were taken to inoculate. And when they were doing the smallpox inoculation, people had to follow a strict diet so that they don't get a full-blown episode of smallpox. So they will get some mild fever, and after that Pathyagala is over, then they become immune to that disease. So smallpox inoculation was supposedly, many British travelers at that time have observed that smallpox inoculation in India was very effective if people followed all the rules and regimens. It was very rare that somebody would then actually develop the deadly pox. It was found to be very successful. So people used to move around around that time. But of course, that smallpox inoculation did not help in completely eradicating. And before Edward Jenner discovered smallpox vaccination, this was practiced in India and also in China. So vaccination is not a concept that is outside traditional medicine. But in no classical textbooks or any Sanskrit book, there is no description of inoculation. So we don't know where it came. That practice was prevalent here. Some people say it came from China, but you don't see any Samhita or textbook in which it is described. So, and even Edward Jenner discovered smallpox vaccination through folk knowledge only. In Gloucestershire in England, the milkmaids, they were always in constant touch with the cows. So when cows get cowpox, these ladies also used to get cowpox. And one of the maids, when there was an outbreak of smallpox, she was, not getting ill. And she told Edward Jenner that, see, don't you know that once you get cowpox, you will not get smallpox. And cowpox is not as severe as smallpox. Now this, actually, the recognition should have gone to that Gloucestershire milkmaid. Nobody knows who she is. Edward Jenner got all the credit because he was able to develop. He was a yuktitnya. The milkmaid only knew that if you get cowpox, you will not get smallpox. And with that knowledge, Edward Jenner converted it into an application. That application is called yukti. So yoga vittva pyarupajñas tasam tattva viduchyate. So if you know that yukti, how to apply it, then you create a new technology, a new intervention. So that does not mean that you should not know Rupajnana also. That's why Charaka says, Kim punaryo vijaniyad oshadhi sarvadha abhishek. Actually, a good physician should know the oshadhi in all ways. Nama, Rupa, Guna and Yukti. Then he becomes a complete physician. Just by knowing name and form or some knowledge about it is not enough. So most of the time the problem with folk knowledge is that it is not so effective. Now Tinospora guduchi, which has created some controversy of liver toxicity, many folk practices are using a bitter variety of Tinospora called Tinospora crispa for diabetes. And now it is clear that that particular species may cause liver damage also. So if you indiscriminately start using such folk remedies, the folk remedies, then you may end up with such toxicities and problems. So we have to be very careful. So Acharya says,
Amritapuri, sir.
yes,
Guduchi is Amritapuri.
Amritavalli, yes. And there are many varieties. I told you yesterday also how when I went with a herb collector into the forest, I heard many types of Amritavalli. In Malayalam, we call it Chittamrita, Kaipamrita, Pothamrita, Katamrita. 4 types. Out of which Chittamrita is considered to be the safest and the most recommended. So if you take the other varieties indiscriminately, it can lead to unwanted effects. So even, the bitter badam and all that, unless you know adequately about it, never accept these things. That is what here Charaka is telling. Unless you know the complete yojana of that medicine, don't use it. Don't go by hearsay. Somebody says this is good, somebody says that is good, and then they will give some anecdote also. This person took it and he became cured. This is not how science and medicine works. So he says, na namatjnana matrena rupajnanena vapuna oshadhinam param praptim kaschid veditum arhati yogavittva pyarupajnastasam tattvaviduchyade kim punaryo vijaniyad. Oshadhi sarvadha abhishek. So here you can see Chakrapani is telling Param praptimiti utkrishtam vyadhi shariradhyapeksham samyak yogam. A very unfailing utkrishtam vyadhi shariradhyapeksham samyak yogam. By considering the disease, considering the sharira, the body of the person, samyak yogam, a proper application of that medicine. This is called Oshadhinam Param Praptim. That kind of specific information is needed. So I think that is an answer for bitter badam question also. It's
Thank
not,
you, sir.
yeah. So you can ask yourself what all do you know about that bitter bath? Do you know its ingredients? What are its constituents? What is the dose that works? How many people have benefited from it? When you ask these questions, then most of the time, it is just smoke. We know that it is not fully reliable. So who is the clinician who can make use of all these herbs and medicines? Yoga masam tu yo vidyat. Deshakalopapadidam. Purusham vikshya satnyayo bhishaguttamah. So the physician who knows how to apply these medicines according to the time and space, deshakalopapadidam, and purusham vikshya, in a very individualized manner, knowing, in whom, in what extent it will help. Such a person is Bhishaguttamaha. So what Ayurveda says, it's not, you can start learning from Avipas, Gopas, Gopalas, everybody, but then at the end of the day, you need to really be able to combine all of them in a proper way. See, I always be a bit careful about single herbs. Single herbs are generally, if you use it indiscriminately for everybody, then it is very likely to create problems. Nacha kinchit adosha nirgunam. Guna bhuyastu mato vichintidam. So we try to balance out that unwanted effects. So we will combine it with other herbs. That is what here Acharya is telling, yoga masam tu yo vidyat. How do you combine them so that they don't hurt the body? How do you combine? Combine desha kala upapadidam according to desha and kala. So very ushna virya, heating medicine, when you are giving in a hot region in summer season, we have to be careful. That same medicine, when you give in winter in a cold place, the protocol will be different. Giving it purusham vichya, the same medicine you're giving in a pitta person, in a young baby, a very infant, or in a child, or in a male, or in a female, especially female when they are of childbearing age, we have to be very careful about not interfering with the reproductive process. So all these things are what Acharya says, Purusham Vichya, Satnyayo Bhishaguttam. See, the real treatment of Ayurveda is individualized. Purusham Vichya. So any claims of treatments, now diabetes is a disease that can be controlled only by making radical changes. Yojananam shatam yayad khanedva shalilasayam. If instead of bitter badam, I would recommend this to the diabetic patients. Walk shata yojanas. Nobody wants to do that. Khanedva shalilasayam. You dig a pond. By the time you finish digging the pond, your diabetes will be cured. That is an easy shortcut. Except if you are having inherited genetic diabetes, or if your diabetes already progressed to madhumeha or vatika prameha, then doing diet and lifestyle will not work. But in all other stages, if you do good exercise and control your diet, then your diabetes will be controlled. Every disease is like that. We need to bring in especially chronic diseases. So I hope that point is clear. So this is the verses. Pratipurusham. So what do you mean by Purusham Vichya? Desha kalopapadidamidi desha kala kritam. Purusham Vichyedi vipsayam. Pratipurusham prakrityadi bhedena yogasya prayo bhedo bhavati darshayati. Purusha shabdena ihacha samyoga purusho bhipredaha. And don't think it is only man. Purusha here means One yojana, there are some people say yes, 12 kilometers. There are many views about that. So if you say today we are talking about 10,000 steps. So some people say it is about 8 kilometers or 5 miles. But there is a lot of debate. So somewhere between 8 and 13 kilometers. That is what one yojana is. So if you are a bit lazy, we can take it as 8. If you are not so lazy, we can take it as 13. So 13 kilometers into 100. By the time you finish 1300 kilometers, which means 1300 kilometers. So that's how much you have to walk to cure your diabetes. So that's a shortcut which Ayurveda tells. Easy to do, which anybody can follow. Yojananam shatam yayat. Khanedva shalilasya. Another easy task. If you cannot do this, then you just have to dig a pond. You must dig till you get water. That's also a cure for diabetes. These are all simple treatments for diabetes. Otherwise, you have to do an elaborate procedure. There is no one single herb that can cure diabetes. So then comes certain other important advices. Yatha visham. So be very, very careful about medicines. Yatha visham. Ayurveda also talks about type 1 and type 2 diabetes. It was one of the earliest systems to classify, and Ayurveda classified diabetes into 3 stages also. Kaphaja prameha, which is more like what we today call as insulin resistance, which is fully curable. Sadhya yapya parityajyaha. Kaphaja prameha is sadhya, Paitika prameha is yapya, because there some pancreatic damage has happened. In Kabhaja Prameha, there is no pancreatic damage, there's only insulin resistance. So Kabhaja Prameha is what can be completely cured. And today a study has also shown that by reducing weight, people are able to reverse diabetes and stop medications. This study is called the direct trial. You can just type this direct trial in your browser and you will get all the details. The direct trial. Lancet has that publication, which says that for people who lost their weight, even by 5 to 10%, they were able to reverse 50% of the participants reverse their diabetes in 1 year. Which means when you begin to get diabetes, and if your diabetes is due to bad lifestyle and increase in weight, and then if you are able to change your lifestyle and diet, then there is a chance you can cure your diabetes. On the other hand, if you start taking medicines immediately, you will become a diabetic for life. Type 1 is difficult. Type 1 is only manageable. It is already Vatika Prameha, the third stage, because pancreas is damaged. So that there, if you try to make them run, or then it will be a problem. They will not be able to go through that procedure. So this is type 2 diabetes. So I will show that concept in Ayurveda. Let us just take that sthanam. In Chikitsa sthanam, there is Prameha Chikitsa. In Prameha Chikitsa, you can see Just a second, let me just see. Kulaja Prameha. So, Jata Pramehi, this was called as Jata Pramehi. Madhumehino va nasadhya ukta sahi bija doshat. So this is due to bija dosha. Yechapi kejit kulaja vikara bhavanti chams tams cha pravadandya sadhyan. So such kulaja vigaras are also so here is the distinction between two types of prameha. Drishtva prameham. Madhumeha is generally the more advanced Vatika stage. Prameha in the beginning stage is Kapha type, then it becomes Pitta, then it becomes Madhumehitvam apannam. Bishakbhi parivarjitaha. Shilajadu tula madhyat prameharto punarnavaha. So Shilajadu is a very good treatment for diabetes if under proper guidance if you use it. So Drishtva prameham madhuram sapicham madhupamam syad dvivitho vichara kshineshu dosheshu anilatmaka syad sandarpanadva kapasambhava syad. So this is how Ayurveda has distinguished type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Drishtva prameham, once you see prameham in a patient, madhuram sapicham, sweet. Madhupamam, honey-like. Diabetes mellitus means honey-like urine, actually. Madhupamam. It's an exact translation. Syad dvidho vichara. You have to distinguish two things here. Kshineshu dosheshu anilatmaga syad. Is it due to vata? Which means it is type 1. Sandarpanadva kapasambhava syad. Or is it due to excess hypernutrition and lack of exercise, sedentary habits? Kapasambhava syad. So if it is a second type, then yojananam shatam yayat khanedva shalilasham, all that works. If it is type 1, then you can only manage it. Ayurveda does not say there is a cure. It is called parityajya, means untreatable. That's a word used. Sadhyayapya parityajya. So early diagnosis and management is the way.
So at Pittaja Prameha stage, is it treatable?
Yapya, manageable. Manageable means you can live almost with medicines and all that, you can well control it well. Vatika stage, you will become insulin dependent. With medicine, it will not be controlled. So kapha stage, early kapha stage is like pre-diabetes or early diabetes. That is the easiest way to treat. So yatha visham yatha shastram yathagnirashanir yatha tathaushadham avijñātam vijñātam amritam yatha. See, first and foremost principle is do not use something which you do not know about adequately. This is applicable to bitter badam. Do you know about it, what it is? Adequately. Do you know the namatjnana, rupajnana, gunajnana, yuktijnana? All the four you must know. Then only you should use it. Or if you should, see, as a patient, if I'm a patient, I may not know all these four things. But then I must use it by the instruction of somebody who knows all those four things. You go to Vaidya, he will say, oh, I don't know. I don't know the Namarupa Jnana of this, so I cannot use it. So, Aushadham Avijñādam, how is it like? It is like Visham. It is like poison. It is like a weapon. It is like fire. It is like Ashani. So, Vishadi Bahudrishtande No, folk pharmacopoeia did not address all the four. They are incomplete. So what is the outcome if you use this? Very beautifully explained in the commentary. Vishadi bahudrishtando drishtandena ajnadam bheshajam kinjit vishavat samjnanasham kritva mareti. Yatha visham samjnanasham kritva. First, it will cause loss of consciousness and then kill. Kinjitcha shastravan marmachedam kritva mareti. Sometimes that medicine may cause damage to your vital organs and then kill. So the way unknown medicines can affect you is very different. Like Tinospora crispa, if you use, it is like Shastram because it kills your liver and then you are dead. Damages your liver. So marmachedam kritva mareti. If you take a lot of ganja, then samjnanasham kritva mareti. It will cause some hallucination and then kill you. Kinchit agnivat spodadikam kritva mareti. Some medicines will cause eruptions and pustules just like fire and then it will kill. And kinchicha like lightning, ashanivat sadhyo mareti. You won't even know what has happened. You will be dead. So please don't use any medicine which you are not fully aware of. So is that not a beautiful, description of mechanisms? Samjnam Samjnanasham kritva mareti, marmachedam kritva mareti, spodadikam kritva mareti, sadhyova mareti. So that is why yatha visham, yatha shastram, yathagnirasyanir yatha, tathaushadham avijñātam, vijñātam amritam yatha. So it is not whether a substance is, see, even with snake venom you can treat if you know what it is and how to use it. That is the difference. So Vijnadam Aushadam. So today we call this, material safety data sheet, MSDS. On a medicine, you must have a big data sheet. In tomorrow's class, I will show you the Ayurvedic safety data sheet. Today we don't have time for that. Tomorrow I have it in a slide. What all information is known before we can use, should be known before you can use any substance as medicine. We have to be very, very careful about this. Use only substances that are authenticated or use under medical supervision. There are many things which are classified under grass. Yeah. Depending on what vegetable it is. All these fancy things, some vegetables can harm, like what was that loni juice, and some people it creates problem. People have been killed by drinking such things in excess quantity. Don't do anything fancy because this is a human weakness, and Charaka is warning against all that. And Ayurveda is being blamed also. After all, you can see how careful Charaka has been about this. And then he says, Aushadham hi anabhijñādam nama rupa gunaistribhi. If it is not known by nama rupa and guna. Vijñādam chapi duryuktam. Even if a medicine which is known properly, it is duryuktam. If the yukti is not correct, then anarthayopapadyate. This will cause unwanted effects. So no shortcuts to healing. You need knowledge. And you must distinguish between what is self-help and where you need external help. That boundary is not easy to divide. If on the one hand, we don't want people to become over-dependent on doctors so that they don't know how to do self-help. That is bad. But always doing self-help and not getting necessary external help when needed, that is also bad. So that boundary is very difficult to define. Through proper knowledge and awareness, we will be able to discriminate where we need to take help and where we do not need. And that is the whole uh, concept that is mentioned. So, Yatha Visham, yes, Jayasudhaji.
Sir, in diabetes or prameha, madhumeha or prameha, to distinguish, like, do you have any, like, we use fasting blood sugar levels and investigations. So how do you differentiate that in Ayurveda?
Today, Ayurveda, it was by clinical judgment only. When Kapaja treatment doesn't work, then they understand that it is, I think, they used Upasaya and Upasaya. That is, they will give a test treatment and no, we did not have. And then Nadi, those were the real methods. Clinical assessment has some limitations, so they would check the Nadi and they understand that it is now Vata dominant condition, so they decide that it is Vata. But those skills are lost from the physicians today. Nadi Jnana, that the Nadi training is very difficult. It takes a long time to get trained in Nadi. That is why in our colleges there is no time to give students such trainings. Unfortunately, today everybody is using modern type of diagnosis, insulin dependent or insulin non-dependent. All these classifications are also changing slightly in modern medicine. But the question is, when insulin is needed, then medicines are not sufficient, right? That is a key thing. So that is where which matches with Ayurvedic concept of Atika Prameha. But I have seen in my practice that even when it is insulin dependent, it is not fully Vatic because people have been able to reduce insulin dependency by taking medicines. So there is a necessity to give a clear Ayurvedic classification. We cannot go by modern. What is insulin dependent in modern is not fully always Vatika Prameha. It is still, in that borderline. Because otherwise, how can I, when I give medicine to insulin dependent patients, they are able to reduce their insulin dependency.
Yeah.
With pure Vatika Prameha, medicine will not work at all.
What is the cutoff level you use for
So
treatment? Like cutoff, like um,
it is the
fasting above
response.
125 is
No,
diabetic.
no, no, no,
Is
no,
what
no,
we,
that is well known today.
yeah.
See, in we are also using modern parameters to check diabetes control. And when usually what I do in my treatment is to see if their glucose control is becoming better with our medications. If they are non-responsive, then we call them as Vatic. If they are responsive, then they cannot be classified as in the Vata stage. If you can reduce their insulin dependency, whatever how much they are taking, it doesn't matter. It means they have not really reached the Vata stage. So this is what we call in Ayurveda Upasaya and Upasaya. Gudhalingam Vyadhim Upasaya and Upasaya Bhagam. It's a very powerful diagnostic tool in Ayurveda. It is a
And
test.
then to differentiate between prameha and madhumeha. So what's
The
the cutoff?
Prameha is a general term for all types of excess urine disorders. Prakarshena Prabhuda Avila Mutrata. So there are about 20 types of such pramehas. All of them are not Madhumeha. In modern medicine, so hematuria, proteinuria, many of that come as complication of diabetes. That is why they were put together. The real diabetes mellitus is Madhumeha, honey urine. That is the exact translation of diabetes mellitus. Prameha is just Prabhuta Mutrata, Avila Mutrata. Prabhuta Mutrata means excess urine, polyuria. And Avila Mutrata means, urine is frothy and unclear. This happens due to so many factors, things that are getting secreted in the urine, which should not normally be secreted. So, although the word prameha is used generally, to indicate diabetes. Prameha is not strictly diabetes mellitus. It is polyuria, which could be a symptom in so many diseases. So Sushruta clearly distinguishes that and uses Madhumeha for diabetes very clearly. So this is a nomenclature issue. But strictly speaking, it is Madhumeha, which is a type of Prameha.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Diabetes found in younger children are called juvenile diabetes. That is a very different thing. Yeah, sometimes doctors, they may prefer a particular manufacturer because they have confidence in them. If that is the reason, then I would support them. But if it is for getting commission, then I cannot support that. You say always buy from this manufacturer because they will get some cut from that. But I would prefer always prescribing some manufacturer who I know. I have seen how they are making. So, Oshadam Hanabhijnadam, because if I don't know how the manufacturer is making, I will not have confidence in giving it. So there is juvenile diabetes, there is type 1, type 2, then there is also gestational diabetes. Pregnant women get it during pregnancy, and then after that, they usually come out of it, but with a higher risk for developing full-blown diabetes. So that's it for today. We will continue tomorrow. Namaste.
Thank you, sir. Namaste.
स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। रामकृष्णाय ते नमः।